It is 6 p.m. here in Cairo, time for the news bulletin, and we will be starting straight away with the main headlines. Iran says it fires new missiles after launching 100 combat and suicide drones at Israel. Speaking at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, the Iranian foreign minister says Israel's attack is a betrayal of diplomacy with the United States. And the UNICEF says Gaza faces a man-made drought as the water systems collapse. Minister of Foreign Migration and the Expatriates Affairs, Badr Abdullah, received a phone call from the British counterpart David Lammy within the framework of the intensified contacts to review the accelerating developments in the Middle East. Foreign Minister Abdullah briefed the British Foreign Secretary Lammy on the Egyptian stance, which calls for de-escalation, reaching a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, and the resumption for the diplomatic path to reach an agreement regarding the Iranian nuclear program. Egypt's top diplomat stressed the importance of continuing the international efforts to contain the crisis and avoid expanding the conflict zone, with both top diplomats agreeing on continuing coordination and consultations to use the possible diplomatic path to achieve calm. Minister of Foreign Migration and the Expatriates Affairs, Badr Abdullah, conducted 2 phone calls with the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Abdullah stressed the necessity to prevent the expansion of the conflict and the region from sliding into total chaos. The call came within the framework of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's directives to intensify communications to contain the military escalation between Israel and Iran. Foreign Minister Abdullah reiterated the need to exert utmost efforts to de-escalate, achieve a ceasefire, and benefit from the available diplomatic paths to contain the escalating situation in the region. The Foreign Minister also asserted the importance to use all the political and diplomatic paths to reach a sustainable agreement on the Iranian nuclear program. Iran fired a fresh salvo of missiles at Israel on the 8th day of the war between the two foes. In another development, the Israeli occupation military issued a new warning earlier of the incoming missiles from Iran. At least one made a direct impact in Bethha in the south. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said more than 100 combat and suicide drones were launched at Israel. The missiles struck near the residential apartments, office buildings, and industrial facilities. In another development, the Iranian missile struck residential buildings in Tel Aviv, wounding 240 people and causing extensive damage. The Israeli military said that it carried out strikes on dozens of military targets in Iran overnight, including the Organization of Defensive Innovation and Research that it said is involved in Iran's nuclear weapons development. An industrial plant in northern Iran was damaged in the attack, hours after Israel issued a warning for residents to move away from nearby areas. Elsewhere, an Israeli drone struck an apartment in a residential building in Tehran's central Gisha district. The Iranian police announced the arrest of 24 people accused of spying for Israel and of seeking to tarnish the country's image. The police commander said that 24 individuals who were spying for the Israeli offline and online apparatuses and who were trying to disrupt the public opinion and to tarnish and destroy the image of the system of the Republic of Iran were arrested. Thousands of people joined the protest against Israel in the Iranian capital after weekly prayers, chanting slogans in support of the leaders. Protesters in Tehran held up photographs of the commanders killed since the start of the Israeli aggression on Friday the 13th. Other protests took place in other cities around the country, including in Tabriz and Shiraz. In neighboring Iraq, thousands of Iraqis rallied in Baghdad and other cities against the aggression. Many of the protests took place in the Sadr city district of Baghdad, as well as in Basra. Speaking at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi called the Israeli attacks on nuclear facilities in Iran grave war crimes. He also condemned the Israeli attacks against his country as a betrayal of diplomatic efforts with the United States, saying Tehran and Washington have been due to craft a promising agreement. Top European diplomats meet with the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Geneva to discuss Iran's nuclear program. Araghchi said that his country had nothing to discuss with the United States as long as the Israeli occupation continues to strikes in Iran, but is open to dialogue with the others, though not negotiations. He highlighted that the Americans have repeatedly sent messages calling seriously for negotiations, but they had made clear that as long as the aggression does not stop, there will be no place for diplomacy and dialogue. Foreign ministers from France, Germany, Britain, and the European Union have all urged to de-escalate. Separately, the UN Security Council convened for the second session on the conflict at Iran's request with support from Russia, China, and Pakistan. The UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi said that there was no evidence of a systematic Iranian effort to develop nuclear weapons. He added that while Iran is the world's only non-declared nuclear power to enrich uranium to 60%, there was currently no evidence that had all the components to make a functioning nuclear warhead. Meanwhile, the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghi criticized the UN chief Rafael Grossi and accused the International Atomic Energy Agency of being a partner to an unjust war of aggression initiated by Israel. The Russian nuclear energy chief said that the situation at Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plant, where hundreds of Russian specialists work, was normal and under control. Head of the state nuclear energy corporation Rosatom said that any attack on the plant could cause a nuclear disaster. Bushehr is Iran's only operating nuclear power plant and uses the Russian fuel that Russia then takes back when it is spent to reduce the proliferation risks. Gaza's Civil Defense Agency said that 31 Palestinians, 8 seekers were among at least 60 people killed by the Israeli occupation forces. Meanwhile, the United Nations Children Agency said that Gaza is facing a man-made drought as its water systems collapse due to the continuous 20-month Israeli aggression. The details.
The United Nations Children Agency said on Friday that Gaza is facing a man-made drought as its water systems collapse. UNICEF spokesperson James Elder said that children will begin to die of thirst. Just 40% of drinking water production facilities remain functional. UNICEF also reported a 50% increase in children aged 6 months to 5 years admitted for treatment of malnutrition from April to May in Gaza, and 500,000 people going hungry. It said the U.S.-backed aid distribution system run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or the GHF, was making a desperate situation worse. According to local health authorities on Friday, at least 25 people awaiting aid trucks or seeking aid were killed by Israeli fire south of Netzarim in central Gaza Strip. On Thursday, at least 51 people were killed by Israeli gunfire and military strikes, including 12 people who tried to approach a site operated by the GHF in the central Gaza Strip. On Wednesday, the GHF said in a statement it had distributed 3 million meals across 3 of its 8 sites without an incident. On Friday, at least 12 people were also killed in an airstrike on a house belonging to Ayyash family in Deir al-Balah, taking the day's death toll to 37.
In occupied Jerusalem, the Israeli occupation troops allowed only a limited number of worshippers into Al-Aqsa Mosque compound amid tight military measures in the Old City and Al-Quds Governorate for the second day running. Since its war with Iran began last week, Israel kept the mosque's gates completely closed for 6 days, preventing worshippers of performing prayers. Only at Wednesday night, occupation forces began to open the mosque's gates, allowing only a few hundreds of Palestinians to perform the prayers. Pro-Palestinian activists broke into a Royal Air Force base in central England, damaging and spraying red paint over 2 planes used for refueling and transportation. Palestine Action said the 2 members had entered the Bryce Norton base in Oxfordshire. Britain's Defence Ministry and police were investigating the incident. Deputy Prime Minister for the Industrial Development, Minister of Industry and Transportation Kamil El-Wazir reviewed with the executive chairman of a Japanese company means to enhance the bilateral cooperation in the different transportation fields, namely metro lines. Both sides discussed cooperation to implement the Cairo Metro Line 4, stressing the importance of upgrading a number of railway carriages of the Metro Line 1 and Line 2. Cairo Metro Line 4 is a mega project designed to enhance the transportation network in Egypt by connecting the 6th of October city and New Cairo with the existing metro network. Minister of Communications and Information Technology Amr Talat reviewed with the Italian Minister of Businesses and Industry Adolfo Orso means to enhance the joint cooperation in the field of artificial intelligence. In the Italian capital, Rome, talks also focused on means to expand and increase the fields of cooperation between Egypt and Italy, namely in the AI field, which started during the visit of the Italian industry minister to Egypt in 2024, during which both sides laid the cornerstones for future cooperation in this field. And this brings us to the end of the news bulletin for now. Thank you for watching and goodbye.